What up, YouTube? Let's here. Just coming up with my second video for you guys. Thanks for visiting the channel. I appreciate that. Just coming on to tell you guys a little bit about myself. I am just starting out as a YouTube creator. I am a knife collector, knife enthusiast, as you can probably see. I've been in the knife world knife community for about two and a half years now. I've done quite a bit of research, especially when buying knives. Every time I think about buying a knife or anything like that, I do quite a bit of research and try to get as much information on the knives as I can before I purchase them, if I choose to do that. And I've learned quite a bit in the last couple of years. So I think I've got quite a bit to offer. If anybody's just entering the knife community or people just with random questions, you know, a lot of the questions that people have these days, they're all questions that we all had starting out. So I kind of feel like people are sometimes embarrassed to ask questions and try to learn things like that. So hopefully I can help some people out. You know, if anybody ever has any questions about the terminology or vocabulary that I'm using while I'm doing my videos, just you know, send me a message, ask me any questions you have. I can definitely answer those without any problem. One thing I hate is when people kind of judge people for asking a question that they feel might be stupid or rudimentary or anything like that. So definitely don't have to worry about that with me. So just a few things about myself. A few things you're never going to see on the channel here. I don't do politics. I don't do religion. I try not to get involved with any kind of drama or anything like that. And I definitely don't really get involved in any kind of popular culture sort of thing. So I'm going to try to focus mostly on the EDC aspect, the knives, and everything else that comes with the, you know, the EDC world. I've got quite a few things here that you can see. I've got a multi-tool. I've got a nice cool little driver here, some challenge coins. I never leave the house without at least 5 or 6 things in my pocket, so I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that are just like me with that that aspect of their life. I spent most of my life getting educated, going to college and everything, getting set in my career and getting financially stable in my life. So that's why I'm kind of so late as far as getting into this hobby. I'm 43 years old, and I've only been in the knife community for about 2.5 years now. So I got a little bit of a late start, but that's okay. We all follow our own journey. What else can I tell you? I don't know. I feel like a lot of the stuff you'll just learn over the course of the channel. If it is successful, if anybody seems to really care about anything that I have to say, which I'm hoping they do. So I guess I'm just going to go over a few of the things here just to show you guys, just in case you haven't seen any of this stuff before. I know that anybody that's going to be watching this video knows what these are. These are just the bit drivers that just about everybody in the knife community uses. My multi-tool here is the Leatherman OHT, which is stands for one-handed tool. It's 16 different tools, and everything can be opened with one hand and closed with one hand. They do have a liner lock system in here for all the tools, and it also has a retractable spring-loaded pliers in here as well. This guy also has removable, I believe they're S35 wire cutters, so those can be replaced if you need to, which is pretty nice. They've also got, there's 2 different knives in here, a regular knife and a serrated knife. There's a saw, screwdrivers, oxygen key, can opener, bottle opener, flathead screwdriver, Phillips head screwdriver. Also got a threaded hole here for a cleaning rod for a pistol, if you ever need to use that. I do have one pistol, not exactly a gun guy, I'm a knife guy for sure, but that does come in handy from time to time. So this is pretty nice. I believe this costs around $120, I think it was. My driver here is a good screwdriver. I believe it's GOODSKREW. You can go to the website. You should be able to get all of it. Any of a number of these guys. They have them, I think, like 8 or 9 different versions of this. There's steel, there's titanium, there's zirconium, I believe they also have. But there's a bunch of different kinds of these, and these are really awesome to have. There's easy to get a good grip on them when you're unscrewing your knives and stuff like that. Works pretty good as a fidget spinner as well. My wife always picks on me about that. So one of the first knives that I have here, this was my grandfather's knife. He actually passed this on to me shortly before he died. So this one has a lot of sentimental value to me. I feel like a lot of the guys out there, or a lot of the people out there in the knife community, got started with something like this. A lot of people get their first knives passed down to them from either their grandparent or their father, something like that. So it's one of those old-timer slip joint knives with 2 different blades in it. Definitely has a lot of sentimental value for me, but it's obviously not something that I carry with me every day or use. The next one, I think anybody that's participating in the knife community, I think everybody should have a Buck 110. It's your iconic, classic slip joint folder. Been around for decades for a reason. It's not very expensive. Just listen to his lockout. You can definitely tell when that's open, and it's definitely a solid lockout. It's kind of got it's got a back lock system, which kind of looks like the axis lock for the cold steel knives. So yeah, this is definitely one of my favorite knives in my collection. I think they're beautiful as well, especially with the wooden inlays. This is your most basic version that you can get. They also have automatic versions and versions with much more exotic materials. I believe they come in like S35VN with, you know, sometimes they're nickel bolsters, sometimes they're silver, and they also come with G10 inlays, carbon fiber. There's really not a whole lot that you can't get with these anymore these days. These two here, the Rat 1 and Rat 2, these are probably your most common size comparison knives, and that's exactly what I'm going to use them for. I do still use the Rat 1 quite a bit. I carry this with me a lot of the time, just because it's a great user. I love the way they snap when you flick them out, and they're just, I mean, you really can't beat them for the price. I believe they start out at like $45 or $50, and then the smaller one here I think starts out at like $40. You really just can't beat them as far as simple first-time knives go, especially. So you guys are going to see these on the channel a lot if it ends up being successful. But like I said, mostly just as size comparison knives. Next couple I got here are Savvi knives, which is one of my favorite companies. I started out buying mostly Savvi knives when I started out in the community. So this one here is called the Savvi Praxis, and I decided to buy the Damascus steel version just because I thought it was absolutely beautiful. But the Praxis is probably one of the most popular Savvi knives out there. It's got a really nice blade profile, very good EDC size. It may be a little big for some people, but I have pretty large hands, so it's actually perfect size for me. This one here is the Savvi Relic. This is just a simple button lock. It's got wooden handle scales. I believe it's Nitro V steel. Yeah, Nitro V steel in this guy. I think it was one of Savvi's most recent button lock folders that they came out with, and it works great. No complaints with this one at all. I think it was one of the most recent or the latest Savvi's that I bought, but I'm definitely very happy with that one. I like that one a lot. The next brand that I have here is another budget brand, CGRB. I'm sorry, Savvi is actually a budget brand for Wii knives. I don't have any Wii knives currently. I'm probably gonna I'll probably get one at some point here someday, but I don't have any right now. The next one is the budget brand for artisan knives. I do have a couple of artisan knives, but I don't think I have any up here right now. But this is CGRB. This one here, excuse me. This is the CGRB. Oh my goodness, I've forgotten the name of the knife. Let me come back to this one. So this is the CGRB Tigress. This is a pretty recent release from them. I think this was just about a year ago. So this is AR RPM9 steel. CGRB has their own proprietary steel that they make in-house, I believe. And this is just a big, I don't necessarily want to say overbuilt folder, but it's a larger knife with definitely a very tall blade, which I appreciate very much. I don't necessarily carry this with me a lot, but it's one of the cooler knives in my collection as far as budget knives go. This one I remember now is the CGRB Crag. This has always been one of my favorite knives from CGRB. I think it was one of the most successful cleaver style blades come out from budget brands. It works very, very well. The handle geometry is very good. You can hold on to it. It's like a nice little finger choil up here. I wouldn't necessarily say a full-size finger choil, but it works pretty good. This one happens to have the recoil lock on it, which is pretty neat. It's a special kind of lock that you just pull back on, almost kind of like an axis lock. Or I'm sorry, it's almost kind of like the axis lock with Benchmade, but it's kind of on the top of the spine of the blade, or the spine of the handle rather. But this one works pretty well. This also comes in a liner lock, I think in like 3 or 4 different varieties. Again, I love the blade profile on this guy. The way the handle is shaped, it fits very, very well in your hand. So these are just a couple of decent models from CGRB if anybody's looking for a budget knife or anything like that to get a hold of. A couple more here. The reason I wanted to show you this is because I think I misspoke earlier. The SR1 Lite is a cold steel knife which has the triad lock back here, which kind of mimics the back lock style from Buck. So if you can tell, you know, when you push this guy down here, it's got this big old lug that fits into this this cutout here, and the way this locks up, you can hear how solid that is. And this is basically indestructible. I mean, you'll break every other part of the knife before you'll ever make the lock fail on this guy. So cold steel are very popular knives as far as overbuilt knives, and it probably has the strongest locking mechanism out there. And these are also really really well priced knives. I think this one was $75 or $80, maybe a little bit less. And there's also another another one that has the drop point style blade on it. I also have that one as well. So I just wanted to show you guys that one just to kind of show you another lock type that is a lot like the back lock. Another cold steel knife, the AD15. This is one of the knives that Andrew Demko collaborated with Cold Steel with to release a kind of a cheaper version of one of his more popular knives. The AD15 Custom, those are pretty expensive, so you can buy one of these from Cold Steel. This one happens to be S35VN, I believe, for the blade steel, yes. And this has the Scorpion lock on it, which is a really unique lock. It looks kind of odd, but it's actually a really cool lock once you get used to it. It's not too hard to use once you get used to it, but until you get used to it, it's kind of cumbersome. So a lot of people don't like it because of that. But if you take the time to get used to it, I think it's a pretty sweet lock. There's a whole bunch of cold steel stuff out there. I've got, I think, 5 or 6 cold steel knives. I got kind of crazy when I was setting up for this video. I brought in a whole bunch of knives, and I think I had 50 of them on the table. So I decided to, I cut it down to about 20 knives here. something which is a lot more manageable. A couple more knives here. This is actually the first Spyderco I ever bought. When I started collecting knives, I did not like Spydercos at all. I didn't like the way they looked. I think I said in my previous video, you know, if I'm scrolling through Amazon or something, I wouldn't even stop and look at the specs on Spyderco knives just because I thought they were ugly. They didn't look, what's the word I'm looking for? They didn't look practical at all to me, but they just kind of looked like novelty knives and something that was supposed to look funny. So I didn't really have any interest in these at all, but a friend of mine told me that the Spydercos were actually really nice knives to have. He had a PM2, and he always touted, you know, he was really always singing the praises of the PM2, which was probably one of the uglier knives that I had ever seen, so I didn't really have any interest in it. But the Manix 2 did kind of speak to me a little bit. The blade was a little bit better profile on it, and I liked it a lot better. So this was actually the first Spyderco that I ever bought, which I was really happy with it. The only thing I can't stand about this knife is the fact that you can't take it apart. But most people already know about that. And at the same time, I bought both these knives at the same time. The Spyderco Shaman, which is actually my favorite knife in my collection, both because of the blade profile, the way the scales feel in the hand, the action, how easy it is to disassemble and reassemble, maintain it, and the original blade steel on the base model is S30V, which is really easy to sharpen. So these are two of my favorite knives in my collection. I actually own, now that I've actually started buying Spydercos, I own 20 of them, which is crazy because I've only been in the community for 2 years. But I also started collecting PM2s, which I did finally get one. I absolutely loved it. Couldn't get enough. I carry it with me everywhere I go, and I actually have, I think I have 9 now. So I'm probably going to collect PM2s for the rest of my life. If I see one that strikes my fancy, I'll go ahead and buy it, and you know, I'll probably just keep doing that for the rest of my time on Earth. But that's one of my favorite knives for sure. But this one is definitely the favorite knife that I have in my collection. I also have a bunch of the other Spyderco knives. I have a Tough. I've got actually 2 Manix 2 XLs. I've got a whole bunch of them. I'll actually do a video of all my Spydercos at some point. I'm probably not going to review most of them because most of them have already been reviewed to death, so I don't think that's really going to be necessary. But I've got a couple more here, the AD20.5 and the AD20S versions of the newer Demco knives that have come out. I'd love to have an AD20, but those are very hard to get a hold of and very, very expensive. So these are the only 2 I have currently. But the AD20.5 is probably one of the most popular knives on the market right now. This is just the Gryvery version with the shark's foot blade, obviously. And I actually dyed the scales on both of these from the scales that came with them. This one came with yellow scales, and this one came with orange scales. Actually, I'm sorry, no. I bought a set of white scales for this one, so I still have the orange scales. The AD20.5 is an awesome knife, and it's like I said, it's one of the most popular knives on the market right now, which would probably be the case with me as well if I didn't have such big hands. I do love this knife, but I definitely love the AD20S better, just because it's a little bit bigger and it fits in my hand a little bit better. I kind of wish this did have the hole in the top of the blade here, but that's not how they were making it when I bought mine. So hopefully I'll be able to get a hold of an AD20 at some point here, and that one will be a lot more satisfactory for me. The next one I want to show you here is a knife that's not so popular. I don't see a whole lot of reviews on it on YouTube. But this is the Kubi Atlas. It's an S35 VN titanium frame lock folder, which I'm not really sure why it wasn't more popular. I think they've discontinued it, but they do make them currently with G10 scales and a little bit smaller scaled down model. But This one was actually really cool. It was $160, and it's got this big long blade here, kind of like a cleaver style blade. It's got a hole here which is good for the finger flick, very large jimping on the thumb ramp of the blade, and a nice finger choil here, so it fits very well in the hand. But the best part about it is the action on this thing. I mean, it's very, very smooth. You know, whether you're using the finger, oops, suck at life. Whether you're using the finger hole or the flipper, however you want to do it, this thing will open and close with ease anytime you need to use it. So this is another really good knife that I don't know if I'm gonna try to do my best not to show too many knives here that you can't get a hold of, but I wanted to show this one just because, like I said, it doesn't have a lot of exposure on YouTube. I'm not sure why it wasn't more popular, but this is a really awesome knife. Another one here, the Real Steel Megalodon. I'm not usually a huge fan of Real Steel knives. I don't know if it's the quality, the aesthetics, or what it is with them. But this one is actually really cool. It's got a nice long 4-inch blade here. It's got a titanium frame lock. And the way they do this cutout here is really, really cool. I like that a lot. It does have steel lock bar inserts, which doubles as an over travel stop. It's got a micarta show side scale. And this knife just feels really, really nice in your hand. It doesn't have a forward choil, which doesn't, you know, that's not a deal breaker for me, but it does have a nice size handle. So either way, it feels really, really good in your hand. And it's a very good slicer. It's got a nice thin blade on it. I'm not really doing any measurements right now. I'm not weighing any of these knives or anything like that. Once I start doing actual reviews, I'll start doing all that stuff. But for right now, I'm just trying to get comfortable with the process of creating videos and uploading them, and hopefully starting to become, you know, a little bit of a popular channel. If that works out for me, that's perfect. But I'm not looking to become super famous or anything like that. The next knife here is the VBR, Varga by Riyadh. Mark Varga. He is a custom knife maker. He also does some production work. This again is by Riyadh. It kind of looks like an XM18. It's about the same size. The blade's about the same length. And while you don't have the same, what's the word? Well, you don't have the same cutouts for the finger grooves and everything on this knife. It does kind of mimic the XM18 a little bit. The reason I wanted to show you this knife is I really love this knife. It's super cool. It fits in your hand really, really well. And this one kind of, I have two different scales for it, so I can kind of show you how much you can change the look of a knife just by changing out the scales. So with this blue scale on here, you know, it's kind of like an everyday carry, you know, whatever you want to call it, blue jeans look. But if you look on the other side, I've got a white scale on here, and it almost kind of looks like a tuxedo to me. So, you know, you can change out the scales for this if you want to carry this to something like a little bit more formal. If you're into carrying bigger knives, a lot of people out there, you know, get a little nervous if you pull out something around this size. But excuse me. But I try to gauge the audience as much as I possibly can when I'm carrying knives and everything. If I know that I'm going to be around a lot of people, I try to carry a smaller knife if I can. But I don't really own a lot of smaller knives just because, like I said, I have such big hands. But anyway, I digress. This knife is absolutely fantastic. I love the blade, compound grind. I love compound grinds. And this is actually a very slicey knife, despite how thick the blade is on it. Next one here is the Chavez Redemption Street. Very snappy knife. I've had this for about a year, and I actually just bought the 229 standard size, excuse me, from Blade HQ. That one has the, it's got a green micarta scale on it, black blade, and it's a little bit bigger. The reason I don't have it here is, like I said, I was just trying to cut down the amount of knives that I was showing you today. The street version is a little bit smaller. It does have a sharpening choil here. Somebody with a much smaller finger might be able to use this as kind of like a first knuckle finger choil. But this is another one of my favorite knives just because of how smooth it is. The action on it's very snappy. It can almost drop shut, but it's a much smaller knife, like I said, so the blade isn't very heavy, which doesn't really allow it to drop as readily as something a little bit heavier would. Titanium frame lock, and it's got the skull clip on it, which this is actually really cool. A lot of people aren't a big fan of these clips, but he started selling them with an additional clip that doesn't have the skull on it, so that's another nice aspect of his knives. So the next one is something that isn't very popular. Again, I don't see this around a whole lot, but this is one of the more unique knives that I have. It's a KTC3 Coke Tools. This is a titanium liner lock with M390 blade and black micarta handles. It has a very unique blade profile, and the only opening mechanism is that finger hole there, but it works very, very well. This is another very, very smooth knife. I'm not necessarily sure why they have the blade ground the way they do. It's another compound grind, but it's very unique. I like this knife a lot. It's super cool. I don't carry it quite that much just because the handle is so small for me. I can get a full 4-finger grip on it, but it's it's real close. And the last knife that I have to show you guys today is this is the ProTech Strider SNG Operator. It's an automatic knife. This came from Riverjet Cutlery, and I've had this for I think 6-8 months now. This is another really cool knife. The reason I bought this one is because I've never been a huge fan of Strider knives. And that's probably going to trigger a lot of people, but I've never really thought that the handle shape it was either aesthetically pleasing, and I never really felt like it would feel really good in my hand. But I wanted to know for sure, so I bought this guy, and it does actually feel pretty good in my hand. I really like this knife as far as the feel in hand, the action, and everything about it. I kind of really do like this knife. I'll probably never buy a Strider though, just because they're extremely difficult to find. When you can find them, they're very, very expensive, and the ones that I've seen that I would want to buy, they're very, very few and far between. Different blade profiles, grinds, stuff like that. But so I'm happy with this one for now. I don't think I'll ever have to buy a Strider. Excuse me. But that's all that I have to show you for now. I just wanted to get another video out there, just to tell you guys a little bit about myself, and show you a little bit more of my collection. I am rapidly approaching 1 subscriber, so that's pretty exciting. If you guys want to get in on that, you'll have exclusive access to all of my content, at least until somebody else subscribes, so you better hurry up and get on that. That's all I have for you guys today. Throw in a comment or send me any messages if you guys have any questions. Thanks again for visiting the channel. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks. Have a good one.